Welcome to the Entrepreneurial CEO Podcast, where we dive into the real stories behind building and scaling a business. Each episode, we sit down with CEOs, founders, and leaders to uncover hard-won lessons in leadership, systems, and team building. Listen in each week to learn directly from real business leaders who have been in your shoes, had success, made the mistakes, and all of the messiness that comes with building a business. If you're ready to learn from real-world leaders and gain insights you can apply today, you're in the right place. So let's get started. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. Simon, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure, Andrew. Thank you for having me.
All right. Today, folks, we're joined by Simon Kaye. He's the president and CEO of Jaguar Freight. Simon has spent over 30 years. It's 32 years this year, which is an amazing accomplishment. Most companies don't make it that long. Building Jaguar into a trusted partner in global logistics. They help companies navigate everything from international freight forwarding to supply chain optimization. They have a headquarters in New York and a worldwide network. I'm super excited to talk to Simon. We were talking a lot on the pre-show about all sorts of different things, but understanding how they've built the business over these many years, their specialization and their differentiator, which we'll get into, and what they have in store for the future. So, Simon, thanks again for being here.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I'm really looking forward to it.
Before we pepper you with questions, maybe just you want to tell the folks anything more about yourself or about Jaguar Freight?
Sure. So if you haven't guessed already, I'm originally from the UK. I've lived here for now 23 years. I moved over in 2002 for what was supposed to be a year. It's been a very long year. I've been here 23 years. I became a US citizen in 2011. I have two sons. I'm married. I have a relatively new, or it's about to be 1 year old grandson who lives in Chicago. And that's me.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on the grandson.
Thank you.
My wife sometimes says we should have a third kid. I'm like, we're closer to grandkids than we are to a third kid. Like, that's just not happening.
Yeah.
Okay, so you spent your whole career in logistics. When you guys launched Jaguar Freight, like, what did you see as the opportunity that you could do differently and have the business?
Sure. So we're going back to sort of the early and mid 90s. And I often say that when I started the business in 1993, I realized very, very quickly that we actually weren't in the shipping and transportation business. We were in the information business. And so back in the early to mid 90s, in the days of dial-up, so I'm really dating myself.
I remember those.
Yeah, we developed our own, at that time, track and trace program that was almost unheard of for a company of our size. Outside of FedEx, UPS, no one really had online tracking or visibility. And this sort of like understanding that moving the cargo actually was not the challenge, but actually giving visibility to its status and the milestones and the issues that popped up along the way. That was the real challenge. And so that's where we sort of like heavily leaned into as far as differentiation is concerned. And so we, from the very beginning, we've very much been a tech-enabled company and lent into technology to both serve the client and to serve our internal stakeholders as well.
That's pretty amazing. So you built that technology internally, the track and trace?
Yes. So we developed it ourselves. And it's just evolved over the years. So it started off simply as a simple track and trace. I mean, I can go back. We had our largest client at the time was a very large cosmetic company, and I'm in the UK. The company's in the UK, based in the UK at the time. We're doing a lot of pickups in Europe. So with the time difference in US afternoon, East Coast, they wanted to know what had been picked up, and we'd gone home at the time. So in the very, very early stages, we built a database in Microsoft Access, installed on a computer in our office and a computer in their office, something called PC Anywhere, which literally allowed them to dial up from the US into this computer to query the status of shipments. The internet. So like just like really rudimentary stuff. But back in the day, this was sort of, dare I say, cutting edge.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but then internet comes along. It's like, okay, let's throw this on the web,
Right.
and it's just evolved from there. So, today it's a full end-to-end supply chain management solution for our clients. So it includes purchase order management. It includes shipment visibility. It's a communication tool. It's a document repository. It's an analytics tool. So it really differentiates and defines us. But it took 25, 30 years to build,
Yeah.
and constantly adding and improving to it.
What has that meant for your staffing and resourcing? Does that mean you have like a whole tech side of the business and you engineers and developers and et cetera, et cetera?
No, we're actually a very lean organization.
Okay.
So development has been outsourced. So the
Mm,
development and the coding, we have a development company in the Ukraine, had for many, many years now, and they do all our development. The design is really, and the business design is in-house at Jaguar, but we have a very small team. And we sort of part of development is from our own internal needs, and part of it is from client feedback and client needs and expectations.
yeah.
So, one of our strengths, I think, is because we're small, we're nimble, and so we can take feedback and we can adjust and pivot. And because we own the technology, we can write the code, so very, very quickly. So we're very nimble as an organization, not just in technology, but just across the board.
That's great. That's great. That's the way to be. I don't think anybody aspires to be bloated.
No,
Right?
for
Bloated
sure.
and slow.
Yeah, and we compete with, like, companies that are, billion-dollar companies, and
Yeah.
those companies, and they have to, are, like, very bureaucratic and take time, very layered, and takes time to make decisions. And if they need to make any tech changes, it's or any significant change, it's like turning a tanker around at sea. It's got to go out of sight before it comes back.
Mm.
And whereas we're obviously, much more nimble, much flatter, and can make very, very quick dynamic decisions.
Is this, and I'm not super familiar with your industry, is your industry one of those where it's very, very top heavy? There's only a few players, and they're really massive players, or there are lots of different companies. And I'm curious, like how you've been in business for 32 years. It's amazing. How do you compete? Is it just that great service? Is it the technology? Like, what is your ability to win these clients and keep them?
Sure. Um, yeah, so our industry is sort of like one of those industries that's, like, for a long time, like, flew under the radar. If I used to tell people I was a freight forwarder, they would have no idea what I was talking about. It was a total conversation killer. COVID comes along, and everyone's seeing, ships lined up outside the port of Long Beach and Los Angeles and New York, and it's on the front page of the New York Times, and everyone's suddenly an armchair freight forwarder or logistics experts. And
Yeah.
now with tariffs, so, it's front page news again.
Hmm.
Um, so, but to answer your question, there are a number of, like, super large companies in the industry. Some of the names you would have heard of, the UPSs, the FedExes, the DHLs of the world, who are more known for courier moves, but they're very much freight, large freight movers as well, and freight forwarding arms that they have. All the way down to, to small mom and pop type operations, and it's a very large industry, but it very much flies under the radar. It's sort of, yeah, it's the glue that keeps the economy going, in
Yeah.
the global economy that we live in. Um, to answer your question about differentiation, it's a combination of great people, great systems, great processes, and listening to your customers.
Mm.
I think too often people impose what they think the customer wants on them, rather than
Right.
really trying to understand what the customer needs.
When you have listened, what is it that you learned, if you're able to share? Like, what was the unlock for you in listening to customers and gathering that feedback?
Yeah,
What
I
did
mean,
they want?
I think I can share probably a couple of specifics. One is the need for information, right?
Mm.
Because what we're doing is we have control for a limited period of time of the very products that our customer survives on. Like that, we've got their good, we've got control of their goods,
Yeah.
and they're waiting for those goods to come in for a production run, for a product launch, for distribution, whatever it may be. So information around what they can, where those goods are and what the status is, and whether they're going to be early, late, if the costs have changed in any way, super important, because then they can plan, they can mitigate if anything changes. The lack of information, the lack of visibility continues to be, but it certainly was, a real hurdle historically. And then I think the other thing is that not everyone wants all their eggs in one basket, so they don't want to be using
Mm.
just one vendor for their freight moves. So they're using a variety of different vendors to mitigate risk, and that's obviously understandable. But what that means is then they're like jumping from portal to portal, or spreadsheet to spreadsheet, depending on who it is that they're working with, to like get a holistic view of their business. And so I realized this, well, 10, 15 years ago. And so like we made our technology, which our clients love, but they don't want to give us everything. We made it carrier agnostic. So we said
Mm.
to them, okay, you love us, you love our technology, you don't want to give us all your business. Okay, that's fine. If you're working with, ABC, XYZ company, we'll plug their technology into ours and it'll give you a total view of what you're doing. And so I think that, that is, one of the things that we did that sort of like really differentiates us.
Oh, that's very cool. That's very cool. Well, you mentioned tariffs. We should touch on that, especially right now. What has that meant for your business?
I think in a word, chaos. Uh, um, it's it, it's taken what was a known, understood quantity. So clients knew what their freight, their duty rates were going to be and what their landed costs were going to be, so they could budget appropriately, they could price appropriately. And suddenly now it's like it's up in the air. So it's either increased dramatically and or it's changing. And it changes. It seems to be changing on sort of like on a regular basis, or when it does change, it's unclear what the impacts are and what the changes are going to be. So we've had clients who early on in the year said to us, "We want to stop now. We want to stop shipping because we just don't understand what our landed costs are going to be, and or these increased costs don't make any financial sense for our business model."
Right.
Um, and we want to see where this goes. They don't want to start moving their origin factories, because they don't know where the next tariff is going to be implemented. So it's just been incredibly chaotic, causing a lot of stress within the industry, a lot of stress to our clients who are, largely US importers, and a lot of uncertainty. And, I said to people for the longest time that in order for businesses to thrive, they need predictability,
Mm.
um, and um, stability. And without either, businesses sort of withdraw. They don't hire, they don't invest, they don't do R&D. They manage their supply chains in a much more structured and limited way. So they import less because they're unsure of what the future is going to be or what the costs are going to be. So, in the current state, we have no predictability and no stability. And so it's just creating, coming back to my original answer, chaos.
Considering that we are in the, you know, first quarter of the game of this administration, is that changing your perspective? Like, are you having to pivot or make any changes internally, thinking through like, okay, I don't know what's going to happen for the next 4 years. Do you need to change strategy? Like, are you guys thinking in that way, or are you just in a wait and see position?
So it's certainly not a wait and see. I don't think we can afford to wait and see. I think we are definitely making strategic changes, and I see our clients making strategic changes as
Mm,
well. So I think, we are developing other trade lanes that frankly don't impact or, don't touch the United States. And not to say in any way, shape, or form that we've given up on the United States as a market, because no, and
yeah.
we're very much here, and we're very much developing our business uh, in this market, and I'll come back to that in a second. Um, but we need to look at other markets, and if you look at the numbers, you know, tr- trade from China has reduced dramatically, whereas trade from China to other markets, South and Central America, to Europe, intra-Asia, has increased significantly as well. And
Mm,
so trade doesn't disappear, it just moves. And it's important for us, for our strength and survival, to ensure that we are close to those movements and understand where those trade lanes are, so we can both offer our services and ensure the continuity of the business. The
mm,
other thing I will say as well is with regards to the United States business, I mean, it's an enormous consumer market. It is an enormous global market and will continue on for the foreseeable future. And we are a pretty small organization. And so, and I say this to my team on a regular basis, we can grow in a shrinking market by grabbing market share,
mhm.
and we can contract in a growing market if we're not running the business well. So we're so small with regards to the economy as a whole, we can still grow in a shrinking market. However, the market is shrinking at the moment. Freight rates are down, imports are down. So there's definitely a lot of uncertainty, Andrew.
Interesting. As a really good point, and what you said to the team about just execution.
Yeah.
I was reading about, like, pivot a little bit. I was reading about the Jaguar way, uh, what you put out there, the 31 cultural operating behaviors, and also how you reinforce it, the way that you communicate it to the team. I think you would send an email out every month on one of those, one of those 31 points, which I loved. What type of impact has that had for your organization, the culture, team's performance? And what do you see as like the next part of that? Where would you just like to see improvements?
Hi, if you're a CEO out there who's struggling with focus for your company, aligning your team, accountability, if you're struggling with execution, connecting the dots from where you're at to where you want to be, we've got a great program for you here at MAP. My name is Michael Cato. I'm the CEO. Most importantly, I was a client for 15 years, sold my company to a public company, and then bought MAP so that we can help other entrepreneurs with this specific problem. We're a 60-year-old company. We've worked with 170,000 individual executives and CEOs. We've worked with 15,000 organizations. This is what we do. Click the link below to learn a little bit more about how people just like you, CEOs, have transformed their business and ultimately transformed their life by running through the MAP system.
So I think I sort of like I'll start with sort of like a high level answer, which is I have come to realize that culture is the most important part of any business.
Mhm.
And if you have a great product and a great service, if you've got a poor, toxic culture, it's going to kill the business.
Yeah.
And the converse is true as well, obviously. A really a company with a really strong culture can grow and expand even if they haven't got the best product and service, and hopefully develop that to become better. Um, but yeah, so we have this 31 fundamentals. It's actually every week we
Mm,
talk about one of the fundamentals. We cycle through the fundamentals every week. We post about them at the beginning of the week, and then we talk about them in at least two meetings during the week to reinforce them. Just anecdotally, there was an interesting event that happened only last week. So our fundamental of the week is part of our email signature. So every week it updates with the new fundamental. It's part of our email signature. And one of my sales guys got an email response from someone he was prospecting that basically said, I was about to hit delete and pass over your prospecting email, but I saw your fundamental of the week and it stopped me in my tracks.
mm.
And it's earned you a call.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
Yeah, that was very. It's never happened before. I've never. Maybe it's happened and people haven't said it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was very cool. That was great feedback. Um, but culture is something that it's super important at Jaguar. And as I said, I would argue it should be super important at any business, irrespective of what you're doing. And so we really reinforce it. And culture is something, and we're a distributed remote organization, so
Hmm.
it's hard to work on, and we work very hard on developing, growing, and improving our culture. We're not perfect. We haven't got it down pat, but we're constantly working on it. It's super important to me.
What are some of the other things? I mean, I love the 31 behaviors. What are some of the other things you do to try and improve the culture? Because it is hard with a remote team. It's not impossible, but it is harder. You have to be really intentional about it.
Sure. So we do a number of very specific things. Um, Firstly, we have two all company meetings every week on Teams. We have a meeting Monday morning where we share KPIs and updates from the previous week with the whole organization, so they understand how the business is doing, what's occurring, what our wins are, what our losses are, where we're doing well and where we need to be doing better. Um, so that sort of like ensures that everyone knows what's going on. And one of my staff had said to me previously, information is inspiration.
Mm.
So everyone shares in the wins, and everyone is part of the losses and the improvements that need to take place. So that
Yeah.
happens on a Monday morning. Then on a Friday, we have what I call a rose and thorn session, where everyone gets together and shares a rose, a positive thing, and a thorn, a negative thing, from their week. And that could be personal, it could be professional, but people really open up, and then you get to hear from people that you don't ordinarily interact with during the course of the week and understand what's going on in their world. So those are sort of like, from a meeting perspective, we do that. Um, we're fairly philanthropic, so we donate to the company donates to 3 or 4 specific charities every month. We have a standing payments to 3 or 4 charities, and then every month on top of that, we spin the wheel, a virtual wheel, with everyone's name on it, and whoever it lands on gets the opportunity for us to donate on their behalf to a charity of their choice.
Oh,
And so, that makes them feel, again, part of what we're doing, and ensuring that the company's doing well. And then the last thing, or maybe it's not the last thing, but sort of like the biggest thing that we do is, because we're distributed, I bring everyone together twice a year. And one of those is for a team building event in the middle of the year, generally just before or just after the summer. We actually just had ours for this year a few weeks ago. It's a 2-day event, and it is always centered around a charity volunteer program. So 2 weeks ago, we volunteered at the local Ronald McDonald House here on Long Island, preparing meals for the families of sick children who are being treated in the hospital next door. But we've done a house built for Habitat for Humanity. We've worked at Island Harvest, which is a food bank here on Long Island that's part of Feeding in America. So we do a lot of philanthropic work, but that brings the team together, and that grows and builds the culture as well.
that's amazing. That's amazing. Kudos to you for doing that.
Thank you.
Um, I'm sure that is super impactful on the culture.
Yeah, everyone sort of like really feels good, as they should, from it,
Yeah.
and it like exposes us to, you know, other people in society whose lives aren't as privileged as ours.
Right.
And I think, particularly in a remote environment, it's and just in the world, the fast-paced world that we live in, it's difficult to stop and look and see how challenging things are for other people.
But we get stuck in our little bubbles,
Yes.
driving to the same places. If we're working remotely, not leaving our houses, it's really helpful to step outside and do those things. I totally
Yeah,
agree.
no, and we don't appreciate what we have,
Hmm.
and we don't always put things into perspective.
Yeah. I think about that with my kids a lot, perspective,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Well, you mentioned culture and developing, and I think part of that is like developing your people too. When you think about your team at Jaguar, what do you do, or how do you think about how to develop them with different skill sets, whether that be managerial or technical skills, or do you have programs? Like, how do you go about training your people and continuously developing them?
Sure. Yeah, I'm always reminded whenever I ask that question, I'm always reminded of sort of like the LinkedIn meme that goes CFO to CEO.
Yeah.
What if we train all these people and they leave? And CEO to CFO, what if we don't and they stay?
Yeah.
You know, so I think investing in people. So we're non-asset based. My biggest asset is my people. And so super important to invest in people, to grow them. I'm a big believer of promoting from within, raising people up to as high as they can achieve, and for, what's most comfortable for them. I'm part of an organization, I don't know if you're familiar with it, Andrew, called Vistage.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've been in Vistage. It's a worldwide CEO peer-to-peer learning group, but they have what they call key exec groups as well. So I
Okay.
have three of my key execs in the Vistage program, and I have one of my managers in an emerging leaders program as well.
Hmm.
And that's every month they go to their Vistage meetings to learn, to exchange ideas, and for them to grow as individuals. And then we have, budgeted X amount of days every year for every department for training. And that could be for professional training. It could be for any sort of soft training that's required. But training is super important. And as I said, my biggest my biggest asset are my people. And so it would be churlish of me not to invest in them.
I totally agree with you. It's really interesting. It sounds like you, to use the word again, intentional about how you go about it. But I think oftentimes people say that, and look, I think people are the greatest assets for most companies, right? Maybe not all, but for most, like having a team of A players. So oftentimes the difference between you beating your competitor or just like being successful or not, right? And but I think oftentimes a lot of CEOs or leaders will assume people are coming with all of the required skills as a finished product and like, hey, they already know I'm hiring because they know this stuff. Well, no, people are always learning, right? The best people are always getting better. And so it's figuring out, hey, where are they great? Where do they still need to learn or improve? And what are the opportunities for growth? And okay, let's put together a plan and let's invest into them so they can become even better. They're already awesome. Let's make them even better, you know?
Yeah, I always use the sporting analogy. It's like, whether it be David Beckham or Roger Federer, or Lionel Messi, or Michael Jordan, these people had coaches. These people
Yeah, that's right.
continue these people continue to train and coach and practice even when they're at the top of their games.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so there's no reason why anyone at any level shouldn't be continually trying to improve, and take additional classes and expand their knowledge base and expand their skill sets. To your point, Andrew, so our fundamental program is brought to us by a company called CultureWise, who was David Friedman is the CEO, and I heard him. He was a Vistage speaker, and he had said something that really resonated with me, which is that someone can always undercut you in price, and someone could always copy you in product or service, but they can't copy your people or your culture. And
Mhm.
your people and your culture is your strongest differentiator. And I really think that's true. And so that's why we work on culture, and that's why we invest in people.
I think that's great. And I don't know about your business, but I was in the software and tech business for a long time. And, with the advancements in AI technology and all the vibe coding, it's totally true. right? It's really easy to copy people and bring a product to market. It doesn't take you years to build software anymore. It takes you days, right? And
Sure.
so you're right. That's great advice.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
sounds like you're in Vistage. How what is what has been the impact of being in that CEO peer group and having, you know, yeah, the different CEOs that it can be a sounding board to learn from others and that have been through it before.
Yeah, I think it's immeasurable.
Mm,
There's no question I'm a better CEO today than I was 11, 12 years ago, before I joined Vistage. My perspective on business has changed. I mean, I'll be honest. My focus wasn't on culture 12, 13, 14 years ago. Um, I was previously someone who thought the customer is always right and it's the customer that we're serving. And I'm now very much on the train of Richard Branson, who says, take care of your employees and they'll take care of your customers. Um, and so I think over the last 11, 12 years and my membership at Vistage has certainly evolved, and has made not only me, but Jaguar a better and stronger company. And I think sort of like very specifically, um, it's probably saved my business as well,
mm,
over that period of time. I've been in business, you said it at the beginning, 32 years. But spoiler alert, it hasn't been a straight line.
yeah,
And there's been a lot of up and downs along the way. And some of those downs occurred during my Vistage membership. And if it wasn't for my uh, peer group of CEOs to help and guide me and sort of give me appropriate direction at one or two instances, things may have been very different at Jaguar.
interesting. Yes, everybody assumes that success is like a straight line, and it's like it certainly is not, especially businesses. There's
No.
tons of ups and downs, and it's having the perseverance and the grit to get through those tough times, you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm also a big believer, not that I seek it out, but I'm a big believer is that our best learnings are when we fail.
Yeah.
That we don't learn very much when we win because we become a little bit arrogant and full of ourselves.
Mhm.
But when we learn, there's some humility that, sorry, when we fall and fail, there's some humility required, and we need to like introspectively look at where we went wrong and how we can improve. And to your point, pick ourselves up with and have that grit to push forward again.
Couldn't agree more. And I hate to keep bringing it back to my kids, but I think about the same thing for my teenagers, right? Like they have to be able to fail and be okay with it. Um, and it's interesting because schools teach you the opposite, where it's like you're not supposed to fail,
Right.
but you kind of need to in many aspects of life, whether it's sports or school or I mean, a business, whatever, right? That's how you learn. That's how you get
Yeah.
better.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah. I think that's a cultural thing as well here in the United States.
Mm.
Is that like, you've got to be number one, you've got to be a winner, and anything other than first place is like you're a loser.
Yeah.
And I think that's not healthy because that's where you learn. You learn to be better when you lose, and the ability to pick yourself up, and push on from that.
Yeah.
That's what makes great sports people. That's what makes great business people, great entrepreneurs, maybe great politicians as well. I don't know, um,
Mm.
but that ability to fail and pick yourself up and move forward. And trust me, Andrew, I've failed many times over the last 32 years. And not that I'm particularly proud of it, but I've learned every time from those failures.
Wow, you guys are still here
Yeah,
32 years later. The business is still going and that's amazing. And you have it sounds like you have an amazing team. So the fact that you endured through those hard times where some people just, all right, that's it, wrap it up, move on.
yeah.
Um, so that is great, you
Thank
know?
you. Yeah, I what my one of my favorite poems, and stay with me on this. One of my favorite poems is by Rudyard Kipling, who famously wrote the Jungle Book. But one of his famous poems is called "If." And if you or your listeners have never heard of it, you just Google the word if. It's one of the first things that comes up on Google. But there's a great line in there that says, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters just the same. It's something that really resonates with me is, when we win, we're not brilliant. And when we lose, we're not terrible. And
That's right.
we need to, have some humility and introspection.
My old business partner would say the same thing to me. He's like, when you're leading the team, it's always super important that you're just reliable, consistent, never get too high. Even, we could have a kick-ass day and make $1 million in a day. Be constant, never get too high. And then, hey man, we might have a horrible day and business is almost going out of business. Don't let them see it. Just be even keel, right? So you're kind of the same thing where it's like, hey, you just got to be able to maintain through those things. Even if you're killing it, it's going to pass, right? It's like that at one point in time.
Yeah. And you want to build an organization whereby you have people who will rally under your flag, who will, follow you through tough times, because there will be tough times. And, our industry is a problem industry, whether it be tariffs or COVID or custom holds or, the Red Sea crisis with Israel and Gaza.
Right.
There's constant disruption. And so you need to be able to lead, and you need to have people that will rally under your flag and follow and work through with you.
And have thick skin, I guess, right? Not be, I guess not get super flustered by all those different things.
Yeah. If problem solving and chaos is something that scares you, then this industry isn't for you. It's a daily occurrence for us.
Interesting. I guess you have to suss that out during the interview process, I suppose.
Yeah, no,
Right?
for sure. And my wife always says, like, nothing phases you. Why don't you get upset about things? And it's like, perspective. I put everything in perspective.
Yeah, because you deal with it every day.
Yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
I know we're over time, but we always ask this one question. If you look at your business today, and you've been in business for a very long time, if you could wave a wand and optimize one part of it, improve one part of it, what would that be?
Oh my goodness. Um, if I can optimize one part of it, I
Aside from
think,
tariffs.
apart from tariffs, yes, I think communication. Yeah, we're in the information and communication business, is what I said, very early on in this conversation. But I think we're still honing it, and I think it's a constant something that we constantly need to improve is like effective, clear communication. Um, I'm a big one for quotes, and I normally quote Churchill, but I'm going to quote George Bernard Shaw here, who said the single biggest problem with communication is the illusion it has taken place, and that I think is unfortunately still very true. We think we've passed on information or we've communicated effectively, and all too often the other party hasn't heard it or hasn't understood it or didn't understand the context of it.
Absolutely.
So that would be my magic wand ask.
And when you say that's super, it's very well said. We talk about that a lot at MAP with the communication loop and making sure people actually receive the information and the confirmation of the receipts and all the different cues that go into communication. Like, it's pretty nuanced.
Yeah.
Is that, when you think about the desire to improve communication, is that more internal or external or both?
I would say both.
Both,
I would
yeah.
say both, because I think if you're not, you can't be good at one and not good at the other. I think
Yeah.
you're a good communicator. It doesn't matter who you're communicating with, or your communication skills could improve. It doesn't matter whether it's internal or external. You need to improve your communication skills. And I think in today's world, the ability to communicate effectively is just more important than it ever was before. In such a fast-moving environment, where so much can be lost in communication,
Well,
to be
yeah. How do
clear and
you
succinct.
you can't understand context in a text message, right? Right. So it's like you
Right.
read into it, you're like, hang on, you can't read you can't read their intention behind a text message.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome, man. Thank you so much for being here. Before we wrap, where can folks go to learn more about Jaguar Freight or perhaps connect with you?
Sure. So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. So search me out on LinkedIn, Simon Kaye, Kaye. Um, our website is jaguarfreight.com. So you can find out about the company there. If anyone needs our services, we're happy to have an informal chat. And I always say it's like I'm happy to be a resource to people. We're not necessarily looking for new business in every interaction. If I can help you and be a resource, I'm happy to do that.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing your time today. I'm sure you're super busy. This has been a great chat. And thank you everybody for listening, and we will see you next time.
Thank you, Andrew.